Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about Gundam GQuuuuuuX. Alrighty then, let's just get right into it, starting with the recap. So, episode 3 began with taking us back to the present timeline. We're actually picking up sort of right after we ended off in episode 1. But we're kind of jumping all around the timeline, and I will say something about that towards the end of the video. We see that Machu, she goes back home. We see that Machu has a mom. We find out that Machu ultimately left the Gundam behind. She kind of left it, although the characters were saying that she was going to come back to pilot it and all that kind of stuff. We then see Machu going over to school. We see that she has some kind of small flashback because she's trying to chase what she calls Akira Kira, pretty much the new type out-of-body experience. Anyway, around the 7-minute 55 mark, we have some kind of flashback, and we find out that Machu is remembering some graffiti she saw, and she likens that to the new type hallucinations that she saw in the first episode. She's going to a bridge. There she finds Shuji, and this guy is pretty much the pilot of the Red Gundam. We kind of know that already because of the synopsis. Around the 10-minute mark, the blue-haired girl Neon also shows up. She's there. She's being a courier. She is given some stakes in this episode. If you screw up this courier job, you're pretty much getting fired. So here's where things pretty much go wild. Shuji goes in and sniffs her. I'm pretty sure that made all the shippers go crazy. I'm pretty sure all the shippers right now are saying that these three are a throuple. Anyway, with the three of them meeting up here, Machu pretty much ropes them into clan battle. Shuji needs a key to be able to operate his Gundam. Neon needs money. And Machu has a desire to ride in the Gundam again after abandoning it in the garage. Okay, I'm being a little bit mean, but I'll talk more about that one later. Anyway, Shuji then introduces the girls to his hideout, where we learn he is severely disturbed. I mean, his hideout, he has painted it in the colors of the new type hallucination. But see, the girls are totally fine about that because Machu's going to make Shuji into his MAV, and we do find out what a MAV is in this episode. Anyway, after that, we do some scene transitions. We see that Machu's mom actually also works. I think that's her mother. Apologies if it's not. Machu's mom also works with the government. She's meeting up with the Zeon Commander guy because government stuff. And then Zeon Commander guy, who was Char's buddy, he goes and picks up the arrested pilot that was the original pilot of the GQuuuuuuX. Their purpose in the episode, they're pretty much providing exposition when the battle begins. Anyway, around the 14-minute mark, that's where Machu prepares to go into battle. Now, she goes back to the hideout of the clan that she met in the first episode, the three, or like I think 4 side characters. There is a suit-up sequence with Machu and the older lady. And editor, please try and find that image of the suit-up. I'm pretty sure people are going to like that image when the suit's getting tightened and Machu looks like she's like getting felt up by the lady. I know that the animators knew what they were doing with that sequence because I know that the animators know how horny the internet is. Anyway, this portion of the episode pretty much talks about how clan battle works. How are we able to get around the legalities of doing an illegal operation? They have like 5 minutes before the military police come for them. It's an illegal battle. It's so illegal that even the Zeon commanders know about it. Speaking of the Zeon commanders, they go to a spot where they can actually just watch the clan battle there at a bar. 17 minutes in, the battle begins, and we get an explanation finally of what a MAV is, and it's pretty much just a strategy. And the people that partake in the strategy is called your MAV. It's pretty much the idea that you have someone watching your back. There is some talk about military strategy of like you lose your advantage when you start attacking and all that kind of stuff, but it's just, you know, it's so many pretty words to describe a simple thing. We move on though. The battle begins, and I think what they really spent their money on this time was the GQuuuuuuX's maneuverability. It's really interesting too, because there was a moment in the episode where the clan that Machu is associated with now, they're criticizing her because she's going to get caught by the enemy. But then, you know, I was going to complain about that, but then the Zeon guys, they're like, yo, this girl's maneuvering like crazy. Like, this is good. So it was really nice to have that counterbalance within the episode at that point. Now, one thing that is clear in the episode is that Shuji and Machu are severely affected by the hallucination that they experience when things are going in their direction and they're becoming new types. So for Machu, when she goes into this battle and she's struggling, she was ultimately chasing what she called the Kira Kira experience. And we did get to see it here. When things are looking dire, Shuji saves her, and then she kind of figures out how to do it by instinct. She kind of figures out how to get into the Kira Kira mode and do new type shenanigans, with the Zeon guys commenting that it seems like they know what's going to happen far in advance. We have a cool little sequence where Machu predicts the trajectory of a Heat Tomahawk, I believe it was. Anyway, that was pretty much the episode. The point of the episode was, hey, how does Machu get into clan battle? And ultimately what was driving her was this desire to chase after the Kira Kira, and as we saw, the new type experience is very strong. Also, Shuji's a weird guy. He keeps talking about like what the Gundam's saying, so like we're in a territory where this guy's talking to a robot. Now, that's a quick recap. Let's get into the review. So for me, this episode, I do think Nian kind of falls to the wayside. And I do think it's really interesting because we have Shuji here, and now we kind of have to juggle his character and kind of establish him. Thing is, he's very weird. So you can use a lot of these like weird character traits to put him there. And in that case, what the creators did was that they gave him this really odd sniffing trait. Yeah, everyone's going to remember him. He's the guy that doesn't respect personal boundaries and will sniff your hair. But he's memorable, so props to that. When we come back to Machu, honestly, I was disappointed at the very beginning with her leaving the Gundam behind. I feel like you have such an important thing. It should be treated delicately. Like I kind of wish she would have respected it more. I do like that she ultimately comes back for it because she's chasing a high pretty much. But I was still sad. In terms of her character, we don't really develop too much more there aside from like her little character interactions with the others. There's moments where she's getting in really close with Nian and all that kind of stuff, and you can tell that the animators are doing that because they want those character interactions to really bring in the audience. So at least when it comes to her character relationships with Nian and Shuji, it's solid. We have this idea of her believing in Shuji, or like this is the guy that she wants to team up with, and that's a large part of it is because of the Kira experience that she had with him when they were both in the Gundams. The next big part that's worth talking about is the battle. The battle isn't too complex though, because it's framed as a battle where Machu is still trying to replicate what she had in the first episode. And by the end of it, you do see that she's able to do it. But the enemies don't have faces. They're just mobile suits that are there to beat her up until she's able to get the power. It's not really that engaging in terms of the character work going on there. That part of the battle really was more like Machu fighting her own inabilities, her own weakness. And ultimately, thanks to Shuji's help, she does come in and she activates the new type phenomena. One thing to note about the battle's animations is that when we're out of the maneuvering and when we're going into the striking, it does seem like the battle wasn't as impressive. There's I think 3 or 4 still shots. I believe it was 3 or 4, it might have been 2. But we just get more still shots of like some critical moments where they attack the other mobile suit. So I feel like episode 3 is probably where they kind of slowed down on spending too much budget. But yeah, other than that, for this very quick review, is there anything else that was worth talking about? It was nice to see that Machu has a mom. I'm personally not, 100% happy that Machu's just the kind of person that figures out what to do by instinct and not because of pilot skill. Again, it's because I have a bias for other Gundam series. But yeah, I'm totally willing to say, yeah, new type shenanigans. She's a space psychic. Of course, she can ride a Gundam really, really well. Now, there is one, if I was to criticize something, it's again, I see the artsiness of the series. At the very beginning, we jumped around the timeline quite a bit. We weren't given the direct sequence of events. And, if we're putting on my author hat, you have to ask, if you were doing that in a book, it'd be a little bit annoying. You'd have to be very careful about how often you do it because readers get fatigued and they are willing to complain about it. But fundamentally, when you're jumping around the timeline the way that this episode did, the reason you do that is because it's an admission by the writer that they understand that this is boring. The reason they jump around is because they're hiding the answers to the obvious questions that the episode is presenting, because the answers came immediately. If I think back to Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, did you need to jump around in the timeline of in a 2-day span in Iron-Blooded Orphans episode 3? No, because Iron-Blooded Orphans was interesting at episode 3. In this case, it's because we still have a girl who is living a normal life by day, and then she's doing these illegal clan battles at night. So that normal life segment is ultimately very boring. It's very boring to hear that she has a curfew, right? It's that kind of thing. So fundamentally, with the jumping around in the timeline, on a higher level, it is an admission of the story is too boring to tell it straightforward. It's too boring to tell it linearly, so we have to kind of add in some drama by splicing up the timeline a bit. Now, ultimately, is it bad to do this, to just jump around the timeline just to make it more interesting? It really depends on the medium. If you're a person that watches anime reviews, I don't think it really bothers you because that usually means you have a higher attention span. But ultimately, these little things are it's death by 1,000 cuts. Little things that just pile up and people just lose interest. The casuals are the ones most likely to lose interest. And let me be clear, they'll lose interest if the product is subpar. If the episode has other elements that they really gravitate towards, then that kind of exotic approach to splicing up the timeline like that could ultimately not hurt them too much. It's really an issue of is this the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of losing a casual viewer? One positive thing, I have to really give special mention to Zeon. I think Zeon's really saving the show for me. I really enjoyed seeing the two guys at the bar. I really enjoyed seeing them talk up Machu's ability with the Gundam. That was just so neat. It's always nice when I guess an antagonistic force is respectful of the other person's skill and all that kind of stuff. And again, I do love their exposition. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for me. Pretty tame review, I think. But guys, let me know what you thought down below. And till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day. And editor, thank you for doing the editing for the video.